Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting oil painting video. I'm your humble host John. This is a 16 by 20 canvas. Now let's get underway. Okay, today we are going to do, I have something in mind today. I normally don't, but today I did for some reason. I've never done a massive waterfall for you guys. I don't know about massive, but a real big sucker. There we go. Waterfall. There we go. And I got this. I'll put a little blue. Straight across. This is phthalo green, phthalo blue, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and some paint gray. There we go. Okay, gonna be a basic river area. And we got, like I said, we got a monster waterfall here. Monster compared to what we've been doing for waterfall. We usually do little dainty ones. This one will be a big one. I don't know, I just had a feeling to do some big ones. I want to make some announcements as I'm going today too. I am going to not be doing as many demos, and I'm going to be doing a little bit more educational talking, FYI about art shows and being an artist and all kinds of other stuff. My tutorials don't seem to be getting a lot of interest, so I'm going to change it up and see if anybody wants to kind of learn from my mistakes as I've been on my 10-year journey of being a professional artist, and why I'm still working a full-time job, because I haven't been able to make it yet. Everybody has their own time frame. Some are sooner than others, some aren't. Some never happen. Mine's getting better. I just can't replace my work income yet. Okay, phthalo blue, phthalo green, and we're cockeyed. Not too bad though. Wasn't off by much. This doesn't actually have to be perfect. But it has to be better than that. Let me see here. This is where tape comes in handy sometimes. I never use it. I like just doing stuff a little haphazard. I am also going to be going a lot more towards palette knife painting, complete painting. That's going to be my new thing. And I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with telling people how my art shows go, what I made, what I didn't make, you know, my expenses, that type of thing. Okay, that works. So if anybody's interested in stuff like that, please let me know in the comments below. If you're interested, whatever you're interested in, you know, if you like my style, if you like what I'm doing, great, let me know. You know, if there's anything you'd like to see. Otherwise, I'm going to create content that I think you might want to see. And I stress the word think because obviously I'm not sure. So let me know. Or if you just want me to go away and kill myself, which I won't do, but I'll just say maybe my style's for somebody else. Anyways, it's been a freaking beautiful weekend here in the Midwest, Illinois, which I'm not a big fan of, the overtaxed Illinois, but the weather the last few weeks has been beautiful. Not enough rain for my taste. You know, my lawn's starting to turn a little bit of brown. Not there yet, but it doesn't have that pretty green that it usually does. So I'm hoping we get a little bit of rain, but even though I don't have shows on the weekend, I hope in show season, whether I have a show or not, it doesn't rain unless it's overnight. Because I don't want to see anybody rained out of a show. Or if you don't get rained out, just the fact that, you know, you're not going to have many potential customers coming through if it's really miserable weather. And that's part of what we're going to talk about too. Art shows in the Midwest are better than some areas as far as the weather, not as good as others. And then as far as the people that come to buy, many art shows don't have the same draw as they do in other places. I'm making a list of some big ones that I want to try, which are out of state, starting possibly 26, but for sure 2027, and see if I can do well with some of those. And here I do well, but for the amount of people, you know, a lot of the art shows here, you're lucky if you get 5,000 people, so it makes it tough to make serious money when you have, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 people at the most. And a lot of shows do under that. They're not ridiculously expensive, but they're still very time consuming, you know, for setting up, preparing, tear down, and everything else. So I'm kind of looking out of state to where some of these shows, you know, have 20, 25,000 people. I've never done to those, you know, those types of shows, so I want to see how that goes. Okay, so we have a massive waterfall and we have a massive amount of space. So obviously there has to be something holding this puppy in. Usually we go from the top to the bottom. I just wanted to get the bottom taken care of. So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna make this cross here and then go like this. Now what I'm gonna do here is I've got Viridian, no, not Viridian, forgive me, phthalo green and burnt umber here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this, how am I gonna explain this without stuttering? Okay, I put the phthalo green in here because I'm going to put foliage up here, okay? And with the phthalo green and the brown, I just have to hit it with the yellow and it's gonna have some nice green foliage in it. Maybe yellow with the phthalo green, something like that. So the whole thing is, it's gonna be like mountains and cliffs and stuff that's gonna hold the waterfall in, and then I'm gonna put a lot of foliage around it. So you're not gonna see as many of the rocks and cliffs, some, but not all. And then we're gonna go from there. Okay, so now we're gonna go with the burnt umber and Payne's Gray, which is something I've done before. There we go. And then I'll redefine the waterfall so I don't lose it. See, right now in this stage, you're just blocking in color, okay? I told you what I'm gonna do and what this is. You're just blocking in color. Once you start putting in highlights, once you start, you know, getting the thicker paint in, at that point in time, everything's gonna make a lot more sense. This is what great artist Polly Lee Hammond would call the awkward face. We're not actually there yet, but it's coming. I'm just gonna make this a little, I'm gonna put a little bit of extra land over here, but not much. And I'm not sure, the only thing I knew, I wanted to do a big waterfall, okay? I didn't have anything else planned out. So the waterfall was predetermined, everything else is kind of like how we normally do paintings together. We see what happens. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. And we'll go from there. Oh no, that's Raphael. Oh, I forgot, today's Father's Day. So I hope all you dads out there are having a great day. Mine, we had dinner yesterday at Mom and Dad's place. And gave Pop his present. We had dinner and everything else. It was really nice. My dad is an incredibly great dad. He was when I was a kid. He was when I was a teenager, when I was my most difficult. Excuse me. And he's been there. I'm 59 and he's still there for me. So he's always been a great dad. Tell you what, fathers and mothers, the ones that do it right, they should get more than a day, because their jobs are not easy. And as I found out from being a kid, just because your kid grows up and gets older and has their own career and everything else doesn't mean you stop being a dad or a mom. So you parents out there that do it right, God bless all of you, because you don't have an easy job. And when you decided to have children, you decided to make a lifetime commitment, because that's what it was. So my hat, which I usually do wear hats, is off to you all. And I just dropped my napkin on the floor. Yeah, I can't believe June is halfway point now. Pop always told me when I was growing up, don't wish life away. Because once you get older, it goes faster and faster. When you're a teenager, it never gets there. Slowest time of your life, apparently. But I tell you what, he was right again. Not so much my 20s, but once I hit like 30, damn, time just started going crazy. And now that I'm 59, I blink and the year's already half over. How about some yellow ochre and phthalo green? What do you think? How's that sound? I like that idea. See what I'm doing here? Just sketching it in. And I'm trying to put some depth here. I try to put depth in everything. You gotta put depth in your painting. You know, unless it's an abstract, when you probably don't have to have it, depending on what your abstract is, actually. You gotta give the viewer something that's enjoyable. And if it's all just like a single plane, it makes it tough. It makes it tough. So you like to change your planes, change your focal points, change your areas, and do stuff like that. And then you sit back and see. There you go. This obviously looks like it's behind there and here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, when I put in my highlights on this, I'm gonna make them a little less pronounced, and I'm gonna have the more intense highlights here. I'm gonna put trees going up against the mountain here and here, but I'm not going to highlight those with a real bright green and yellow. Those will be a lot more subdued color-wise. And then with the subdued colors and not as much detail, that's gonna finish the illusion of depth, where that's much further away than what this is. So that's how we do things in the Midwest, my friends. Okay, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of cerulean and a little bit of phthalo blue. I like that combination. Cerulean and phthalo blue is really pretty. Look at that. Just gonna put that on the top. I actually came up with that mixture by mistake one day, and the sky came out like, whoa, that was awesome. Now, just so you get an idea of what's coming, I have been demonstrating a haphazard way of painting in oil paints. My whole goal was always to show you an easy way to oil paint where you're not going to stress out and you're going to have fun. And that's still my goal. However, I'm going to put it a little more into overdrive when I start doing palette knife work. Now, you've seen some of my palette knife work. I've had some of those where I went extra thick and everything else. Okay, so that's the other extreme that I'm going to stay away from. And then we have the brush only, or just a little bit of palette knife work, which I'm going to stay away from. So I'm going to have it in the middle. So the middle means it's going to be textured with an oil painting knife only. However, it's not going to be crazy thick. I'm going to probably take the texture down about half of what you've seen on some of my YouTube videos that I've done with the knife only. But it is going to be entirely done with the knife, no brush whatsoever. I am, though, going to go a little bit weird on the skies and the water. I want to start experimenting with a lot of different colors in the skies. I love blue skies. Don't get me wrong. You go out to the mountains in the west, and that's all you have is blue skies sometimes. And then, depending on the weather, then you get some funky colors in the Rocky Mountains. I've seen some pictures of them. I've seen a little bit up close the one time I was out west. So I'm going to start doing the funky colors. And I'm just going to add purples and reds and greens and everything into the skies when I start the knife work, which will be in a couple of weeks probably. Okay, now I've got relatively thick paint, but not as thick as I'm going to be in these mountains. I don't want to mix it all with this blue. So the way I've got these set up is I got a board that I have the canvas Velcro to make it real easy to do one of these. And that way I'm still going to mix in with it, and that's cool. I don't mind that in the sky. I just don't want to take too much. And from the angle I was reaching up over the mountains, I wasn't going to be as steady with my hand. So here, it's a lot easier to just cut it right in and get a little bit of it in the sky, which is a good thing, but not too much. And that's what my whole little goal is. So however you do your canvas, never, ever be afraid to turn it upside down, to turn it on one side or the other. Turn it wherever you want it. It doesn't matter if it's canvas or a wood panel, it doesn't matter. Painting support has to do what you want it to do. See how nice that comes out? Just from flipping the canvas. So I'm, like I said, I'm cutting into the mountains. And I'm using a filbert here, just so it's a little more precise. A flat will work. I just got the filbert out. And now that everything is wet, I can just blend what umber made it in there. So I just have a little bit of it showing, but you still want everything horizontal. You don't want your sky going up and down like this. There we go. There we go. I'll turn it back the right way. Here we go. Now we've got a little bit of umber in the sky here, a little bit here. That's fine. I just didn't want a ton of it. A little bit, no big deal. A lot, big deal. And that, again, is entirely up to you. You know, as the late great Bob Ross always used to say, that canvas is your kind of, your creation. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not taking it exactly. But he always used to say, you know, for the most part, you do whatever the hell you want. It's your canvas. I like stuff in the sky that's everywhere else, in the water that's everywhere, wherever it is. You know, for landscapes, I like having the stuff mixed up. And I'm going to keep doing it that way because I enjoy it. And the people that buy my art seem to like it. They like how I have, you know, the colors kind of going everywhere. But now I'm just going to go with wipe this off real good. I'm not going to wash it yet. Speaking of washing too, I haven't had anybody ask, but if anybody is interested in how I wash my brushes from my oil paint, you know that I use Bristle Magic or Gamsol as my brush cleaner while I'm painting, but there is a Murphy soap that I use. Murphy's something, I forget what the name of it is, but it's like in a tan package. What I do is, after I wash my brushes after a session, I have this little rack, and I lay them down, and it's on a slight angle from where I'm at, so everything runs away from the ferrule, so it doesn't get inside and rust it. And then I wait till the next day, and when they're all completely dry from the brush cleaner, then I'll take the Murphy soap with warm water at the sink, and I'll just right into my hand and then go like this with my fingers with the bristles. Make sure they're all rinsed out real good after a real good lather. I'll put them out for another 24 hours and they're done. So it's just, you know, any little things about oil painting you're not sure of, let me know. I will share with you anything that I know. If I don't know it, I'll find it and I'll tell you where to find it, and then somebody else can teach you if I don't know the answer to a question. I know what it's like to want to do something and not have answers. That's not fun, so I'd never do that to you. If you want to know something and I don't have an answer, I will find who does have that answer and hook you up with them. There's one thing you've noticed for me. I never come across, at least I hope I don't, like I have all the answers, and my way is the only way. My way is a very fun way, and it takes a lot of stress out of oil painting. But there are way more different ways to do it than I do it. This is just a way that I prefer. Now, just kind of cleaning up little places. Put a little bit of paint spray in here. This is just preference me. I don't recommend you get your nose right up into it, but hey, you do whatever you want. I don't like that cloud there. I'm gonna take my knife. I'm just gonna scrape it away. I want these clouds to be a little more faint. They're just a little too thick for my taste. That was a little too thick. That's how that looks now. Yep, that's better. A little more subtle. I'm not a believer in focal point and making composition a science like other established artists are. And that's probably at my detriment. But one of the things that I found out is spontaneity, at times, not always, is the enemy of precision. And when you're looking at exact color theory, when you're looking at exact composition layout, when you're looking at exact everything, that is the direct opposite, in my opinion, of spontaneity. So, there are certain things that you have to do regardless if you're spontaneous or not. You need contrast. Contrast is not only color, it's color intensity, it's also contrast and shapes. Big shapes, little shapes, whatever. The next thing you need is perspective, depth. Okay, you gotta have something behind you, something in front, something in the middle ground. Your color selection doesn't have to be scientific, but you want to limit your palette so you don't have a ton of different colors. Mix those colors and use them throughout the entire landscape, and it's going to bring a certain amount of color cohesion to your stuff. Those three things, in my opinion, are all you need to perform and to create beautiful oil paintings. Now, if you want to go to the old masters and to even some modern masters, okay, you can study and you can analyze and you can sketch 40 different thumbnails before you start painting. You can do all that stuff. If that's the way you're wired, God bless you. I am all behind you. I'm all for you. However, if you're kind of wired like I am, where you don't have that type of meticulous patience, there's nothing wrong with painting. I'm not painting in a craft way. I'm using professional stuff. I'm using perspective. I'm using color theory to a degree. I'm using all that stuff. I'm just not obsessing about the hyper realism and glazing something 38 times like Raphael used to do in the late 1400s. So that's kind of my little thing here. Now, anybody that does that does not make them wrong. It makes them who they are. Okay? That's all it is. It makes them who they are. This is who I am. I like to just go at it. One of the things that appeals to me so much about the knife and why I'm turning into, and like right now, all my studio work is a knife. And eventually my YouTube video stuff will be exclusively too, as time goes. The reason is because it allows for even more spontaneity, and you can only put so much detail with a knife. So when I get bogged down in the studio with a brush trying to put extra detail in sometimes and losing my mind over it, with a knife I don't have to do it. I don't lose my mind because I can't do it. You can't put too much detail with a knife. So it kind of helps me from me. So now, enough of the soapbox. I'm gonna go to the waterfall. Take white, got a little blue in it from when I was doing the cloud and stuff, don't care. Touch, take it all the way down. There, all the way down. Doesn't have to be straight, doesn't have to be this, doesn't have to be whatever. There we go. Now, this thing is falling pretty good, so these are going to be pretty heavy. And then they're going to get less intense the further you go. So, this is going to be a little bit more. I'm going to wipe off the brush, I'm not going to clean it. For some reason today I'm getting more on my fingers and thumbs than I am on the paper towel. Not quite sure why that is. Maybe you guys have had a day like that too. Now, here's another thing too that I like about going with the knife only. Is I told you before I like a green studio, which I have. However, with the knife, you can eliminate your brush cleaner right from the get-go, and you can eliminate your medium. Now, both of mine are green, like I told you before. So the only thing you got to worry about then is the pigment choice. If you get a regular cadmium yellow light, that's a harsh pigment. Again, the chances of something happening are slim to none, but it is a harsh pigment. Or you can use cadmium yellow light hue, which the hue means is a synthetic version of that. So if you use stuff that's not cobalt and cadmium and those harsh minerals, okay, then you've got a green studio, and the only thing you need is a lot of these. That's pretty much it. Okay, so just like we did the sky, I don't crisscross on the waves. You want to keep this as horizontal as possible because it just won't look right if it's water. Now, as you notice, I'm going in here, right into the land, and I got some of the brown that's going in there. That's fine. In real life, that's what would happen too. There we go. Oh wow, that looks better than I thought. Okay, now I'm going to take the fan brush, a little bit more precision, and right around the waterfall itself is where I'm going to have these that I'm not going to do much with. I'm not going to put these all the way out because they wouldn't be this far that rough. You'll have moving water here which will be decipherable, but you're not going to have the real crazy rough stuff like you are right at the base of a falls this big. This will all kind of flow that way, and the size will shrink as it goes further away. A little bit of perspective for you. Here we go. And I am going to smooth that out just a hair, but not a lot, so I'll show you. And this is driving me crazy. I lost a little bit of my angle here. I'm not sure how I did that. But I've been watching these clouds and I've been going, okay, that's annoying. There we go, that's better. Okay, so this stuff is a little thicker than I wanted, so I'm barely going to touch the brush. Okay? So I'm keeping all that texture. See how I'm doing that? Barely touching. Now, what I did was the texture was sticking out quite a bit. So let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, the texture was sticking out, let's say it's 6. I didn't want to get rid of it because I need it there for a waterfall that size. But what I wanted to do was lessen the impact. I didn't want as much oomph. So instead of, let's say it's sticking out, let's say a 6 out of 10, now it's a 3 or 4. You could still see it, Once it dries, you can put your fingers over it and it's going to be rougher than here, but it's not going to be crazy. And that's what I wanted to do. And the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to clean that brush, the brush cleaner. Look out. Look out. Okay, so we've got that done. Now we are going to bring out the palette knife for some peaks. We're going to use, so I'm going to do, mix up a little bit of umber with yellow ochre. Okay, I want these, like I told you, I want the highlight. This is going to have white in it. I want this to be thought of as in the distance. I apologize if I'm getting in your way. I still haven't figured out how to paint this reasonably well and not get in your way. There we go. Let's see how that looks. Oh yeah, and you can see it too. Okay, so that is going to be darker than this. So I'm going to use the same color now, okay? So I'm going to use the same color. I don't want it to look weird, but I'm just going to add some white to it now to lighten it up. So I just want maybe a value or two lighter than here. Again, contrast. Lighter, darker, they're next to each other. So that way, even though they're next to each other, it looks like the darker is further back. Excuse me. There we go. See? See how that's going. There we go. And this, I'm just going to get a little bit. And remember, this is the same color as that, except I added white. And not a lot, as you can tell, it's not a lot of white. Just enough to make it brighter than the back. Here we go. Okay. Okay, that's looking good. So now I can wipe off this knife. Put it away for now. Look at this thing. You can tell I've used it a few times. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the little trees that'll line this mountain, and then some bigger ones that'll go right into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a filbert to get some little ones. And I'm going to use phthalo blue and phthalo green. Now this also, I'm not going to have the trees that high. Okay, some of these are going to be higher, but I also want these to go up into these highlights a little bit, but not too much. Again, this is all by however you want to do it. There we go, that looks better. I don't want it. Okay. Now, we're going to do the same thing here, but these are going to be brighter when I add the highlight. That's going to be just, it's going to be green that's going to be visible, but it's going to be at the similar value as that, where this is going to be brighter. So everything is the same. Now, unfortunately, you can't see what I'm doing here. I have a tough time seeing it, but I know what I'm doing as far as I can see what I'm doing here, I should say. As far as knowing what I'm doing with painting, kind of. If you ever hear me consider myself an expert, and yeah, I just went right over that one really pretty highlight. It just didn't do it for me. If you ever hear me go, yeah, I consider myself an expert, I'm a master, I have all the answers, at that point in time, comment below, John, you're full of shit, and I'm canceling you, and then I can get my head out of my tush and say, yeah, I was having a moment of absolute stupidity. Because the fact of the matter is, nobody gets it when it comes to painting as far as have all the answers. Possibly the old masters, the three main ones, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo. Maybe they could make an argument that they know it all. But when it comes to painting, music, I mean, there's always something to learn. Always. So if I ever have the nerve to think I've got it all, please be the first one to tell me to shut the fuck up. Forgive me for the language, but yeah, that's just... I would like to think my arrogance was left behind me in my 20s when I was really stupid. And I'm not quite as bad as I was. Okay, now, the next thing we're going to do to make this kind of the way I'm looking to make it, I guess, is all I can say. And I'm washing all my brushes. Why? I don't know. Just, I feel like it. I'm going to use the knife. It's a knife my wife found for me at our local Blick, which is 45 minutes away from us. But she found it for me that I think is good for deciduous trees, foliage trees. So I'm going to give it a whirl. So I've got the tree texture here. Okay, and you can see where I went around the highlights and stuff. I'm not worried about this tonight, for right now. That's going to come later. I'll take this knife by gambling. It's a little different shape than I'm used to using. So what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to use a little bit of the cad yellow. Cad yellow light hue. And I'm just tapping in. And I'm kind of making it go side to side and everything else. And the reason I'm doing this way is, like I said, I don't want it that bright. I mean, it might be a little brighter than I want right now, but I want it to show up for you too. But the stroke is just kind of touch and move, touch and flick, just to give it, you know, the tree look. And it's one of the beauties about painting trees, especially with a knife, is there isn't a lot of precision involved because trees go all over the damn place. That's one of the beauties of them, one of the many beauties of them. But see all this yellow here? That I'm just keep rubbing in to get rid of. I want it just green. I need the yellow obviously to make the green, but I want it. Just tapping away. Let me see how that looks from the back. Oh yeah, that'll definitely work. That'll definitely work. I'm gonna add a little bit of phthalo blue to this too. Darken in some areas just a little bit. Now I'm gonna have more blue. I'm gonna like this. Just a little bit of the yellow in here. I want to brighten it up a little bit, but not a lot. Remember, that's gonna be further back. I'm just making tree trunks now. Twigs, stuff like that, by just, see how I can show you. I'm just basically going on the edge. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I've got that down. Now, instead of mixing it with the phthalo green on my palette, I'm just going to go straight in with the cad yellow right here. Now, I'm going to be adding blues and everything else as I go, but I'm going a lot thicker, as you can see, and I'm going a lot heavier with the color. But this isn't going to stay this color. Like I said, I'm going to put a lot of phthalo blue in here. I'm going to put some Payne's gray in here. I'm going to put all kinds of stuff in here, but I want to get this nice little layer of bright in first. And then when I add the blues, it'll work. And I'm not worried about going thick right now because that's good. Go to a smaller knife here sooner than later. Right up along that waterfall. Okay. So now I'm just going to wipe this off. I'm going to go to the one we used for the highlights. I'm going to go with some phthalo blue. I'm just going to... See how that green now just pops at you? And again, I'm just kind of like this as I'm touching and going, touching and going. When you're not here in person, it's hard to describe this stroke, I guess I want to say. But most of the pressure is on that top third of the knife, that little corner. That's where most of the pressure is. I'm not using the whole blade. This is a little tedious, but I have no problem with it. I like doing it. But this is how you paint deciduous trees. That's fun. And the whole thing with painting, and I said this before, if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. And I'm not trying to be, a smart ass or anything like that. Yeah. I can say that because I've been painting so much longer. Yeah. Yada, 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 whatever. I'm serious. Now, yes, when something looks like absolute garbage, you're not having fun. I get it. The trick is with painting, with anything, playing a musical instrument, whatever it is, throwing a baseball. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So if you can block the failure out of your mind initially, that failure becomes the greatest teaching tool there is. And then at that point in time, it's just beautiful art. That's what it turns into. Now I got to get it some here. You don't want the waterfall to just have that. So you got to kind of... Let's see here. think I'm going to use a small knife. That's one little area that I don't want to mess up the waterfall. There it is. Don't want to mess up the waterfall. Here we go. Okay, that looks better. Now I can go back to the big knife. That little knife didn't have much of a showing now, did it? Okay, so I'm going to use this one now. So I'm still going to go with a very similar mixture, except I'm going to add some red to it. So I'm going to have what I had here, plus a little bit of red. I'm going to have a little bit of a slope. Okay, let's get that slope in. Right up to the water. Now, we're going to go a lot more yellow. Go. This is the front. There we go. And then let's see here. Just touch. Give it a little bit of texture. Well, here doesn't need texture. That's further away. I'll go with a little bit. Little bit of Payne's gray here. There we go. So basically it looks like this is coming down a little bit of hill, and then this is flatter all the way around. And then I got to put a little bit more here just because that just looks a little funky. One more right here. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to take that same mixture plus the yellow. We're going to go like this. Now, I use more yellow when I paint, whether I do with a knife, only a knife and, oh shoot, hit it. A knife and brush only, or just a brush only. Good, I didn't mess up the camera. I go through yellow more than anything else, and that includes white. And it's funny too, because I don't go through anywhere near the white that I used to when I was first learning. White used to be like a crutch. I think it is for anybody that's starting out new in painting. And as you paint, you start to eliminate that need for that crutch. Okay, some more. Oh, my garbage bag fell. Oh well, I can get it later. So yellow, I go through a lot. The problem is the paint I use, the Griffin Alkyd, other than white, they only come in 37 ml tubes. So it makes it a little difficult. But I wish they would come in the bigger tubes for all their colors, but especially yellow, but I'll last. Winsor Newton over in England probably isn't going to listen to me. But they do make a great paint. I love their Griffin Elkwood paint. I love the fact that this is going to be dry in 36 hours to the touch. And I'll be able to varnish it in 5 weeks, 4 weeks. Now if you notice, I'm not covering this completely. I'm leaving a lot of stuff exposed. Okay. Now I'm going to go with some bright colors. Actually, color. It's going to be a deep red, which is basically my alizarin. And then I'm going to use that as flowers. And then I'm going to go with the yellow to top it off to make it this beautiful orange. And that brightness is going to go right with the color temperature of this painting. Now, flowers, you can do scientific if you want. But if I look at flowers, there's no science to where they're at. They're just all over the place and they're beautiful. Wildflowers especially, they grow wherever you, they'll grow in the middle of concrete, for crying out loud. So again, I'm not going to analyze nothing. I'm just going to go where I want them to be. I'll put some more over here. A little bit more over here. And then I'm going to put some over here. Like I always say, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but wherever you put one color, put it somewhere else in the painting to keep that color cohesion going. Okay, wipe off the paint so I can get the real nice yellow in there. Look at that orange. Land back in a little bit, but it's going to have some orange in it. There we go. Just a little bit here and there. Go. Wipe it off again. A little bit of Payne's Gray in here. I always like adding Payne's Gray to my landscapes. It just, I don't know, it's almost like it finishes it off in the grass and stuff. Go. I'm going to put a little bit more flowers right over here. And a few more right here. And that'll do it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will stick around for the palette knife onlys when I start doing those in a few weeks. I've got a couple more on my brush work that I want to do with you. After that, like I said, I want to go into doing palette knife only, and then some kind of FYI, I don't know, lectures or stuff. If you want to go and start selling your art, whether it's online or in person or both. So I've got a lot of stuff I want to try, so I hope you stick with me and give it all a chance. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend and a great work week. And you take care.